Hi there, and welcome into the 8 Ways You're Losing Money with a New Patient Phone Call, and welcome into our podcast studio. If you've never listened to the New Patient Group and WrightChat podcast, please check us out on all major podcast channels. Just type in New Patient Group podcast, you'll find it. And also our on-demand studio. We shoot a lot of on-demand courses right behind me with those studio lights on. A lot of really innovative ways to grow your business, grow your practice in 3 key areas: leadership, team training, and online marketing. Welcome in. Again, my name is Brian Wright. I'm the founder and CEO of New Patient Group and managing partner of WrightChat. And welcome into this 8 Ways You're Losing Money on the New Patient Phone Call. The first one, let me discuss why WrightChat was created, and the very first one is miss new patient calls. Now, this happens, I think it's obvious on this piece I'm about to talk about, is obviously before you're open, at lunch, and after you close. The 3 most frequent, most convenient times, if you will, for people to call, especially with this modern consumer that's busy, that's on the go. At least that's what we convince ourselves of that, right? The 3 most convenient times oftentimes are when practices aren't open, and that's early in the morning on the way to work, that's at lunch when they're off work, and that's a little bit later in the evening when they're driving home. A lot of times, practices aren't open then, and a solution for a long time was, well, let's get a call center. Well, the call center will take the message and we'll call them back the next day, or we'll call them back when we can. And we talk so much about how outdated that is, because the modern consumer that's shopping around, the days of them leaving a message and you calling them back, they're over. They're gone. We talk a lot, if it's a loyal referral from a patient of yours that's been a patient a long time, then yes, those are obvious exceptions to the rule. But the overall rule is when people are shopping and you don't answer, they're just calling right down the list. They're calling to the next one. It's a lost opportunity that you never even know about. And then the other piece to that is let's say that for whatever reason you do get a hold of that person again. The fact that they called and you didn't answer, it's a poor representation of your brand. It's just a bad brand awareness. It's a bad experience. And the phones, so often, we've all called businesses that didn't answer. It's annoying. Even if you really wanted to buy from them, you had to leave a message, whatever the situation was, it's annoying. So it doesn't represent your brand well at all. So you lose really in both situations. Inevitably, though, there's a whole nother world on the missed calls that happen. Part of that is you are, and this is, I think, the not obvious, is you are missing more new patient calls during business hours than you are missing during off business hours that I just discussed. All kinds. Let's say in this example, you have 2 receptionists that sit up front. Nancy, make-believe name, is checking somebody out. Susie, make-believe name, is on the phone with a patient. And the next thing you know, the phone rings. Inevitably, a couple scenarios happen. What most of the time happens, those scenarios with most practices from what we study, is the reality of the situation is that call that's coming in goes unanswered because one person is checking somebody out, the other person's already on the phone. Another scenario, so boom, there's a missed new patient call right there. And this is not the WrightChat model. We don't handle existing patient calls, but the reality of the situation, even if it's an existing patient call that goes unanswered, obviously it's not going to put you out of business, but the reality is that's still bad for your brand because they have bought from you. So if anything, that experience needs to be better. And inevitably with WrightChat, one of the cool things is you have a backup plan. You have an insurance policy. So if Nancy's on the phone, Betty's checking somebody out, the phone does ring, and it happens to be a new patient, well, guess what? You have a backup plan. We're going to answer that call as if we're sitting at your front desk. We're going to remotely access your software, and we are going to schedule that patient. We think, act, talk as if we were your employee, right? You have an agent assigned to you, knows your software, knows your scheduling protocols. So the beauty is that caller doesn't even know a quote-unquote third party has answered because we're an extension of your team. The other great thing is that a lot of it goes overlooked is it builds a better brand. It's just a better overall patient experience because the phone calls are answered. But also the other one that's very forgotten is your team now can take care of the person standing in front of you. You know, hopefully, as it relates today, if you have a patient standing in front of you, and the phone rings, you have to get that phone. And if it's a new patient, you have to stay on that call. What happens to you in so many practices is this: phone rings, Betty answers, hello, please hold, puts you right on hold. Happens all the time. We do thousands of mystery calls, and that happens time and time again. Matter of fact, it even takes us 3 mystery calls on average to actually get somebody to answer. If that's not a scary statistic, and I used to have a bunch of practices, don't have them now because I run these companies, but the reality is if that doesn't scare you, nothing will. On 3 average mystery calls, it takes us to get a hold of somebody. And a lot of times we get that, hello, please hold, because your receptionists are inundated with so many things. And it's a horrible representation of your brand when you say, hello, please hold, and it's a new patient. Even again, if it's an existing patient that's already bought from you, same story. So you have all these scenarios that go into these missed call situations that cost practices 6 figures a year, and it domino effects, because not only do you lose that new patient and all the starts that come with it, if you're an orthodontic practice out there, that's $5, $6, $7+ thousand a pop. GP practices listening. The reality is for you, your patient is worth more than an orthodontic practice, just usually more over the course of time. But then you're losing whatever, the husband that would come in if you're a GP practice from their wife coming in. You lose, if you're an ortho practice, you lose maybe the sister is 8 years old today and you start a 14-year-old, then the sister grows up in a few years, they need orthodontic treatment. You lose that. You lose all of these lost opportunities compound on themselves when you lose and miss a new patient phone call. So the reality is you have to be the business owner that wakes up and realizes this is happening to you. We see it, and there's a reason why we have a 99% client retention rate now with WrightChat, is that it is a no-brainer for practices to invest in these lost opportunities and have an insurance policy for the calls that otherwise would be missed, or have an insurance policy to know now I can take care of the person standing in front of me, offering an exceptional experience, because if that phone rings, I have a backup plan in WrightChat that will get it, speak as if they work in my practice, and then schedule the call for us. And we see it with practices, even small, we have small practices all the way up to very large practices. And obviously the large one, the call volume's more, they miss even more. But those smaller practices, maybe you're a single practice with a one receptionist. Well, you're missing calls. There's no doubt about it. You're missing calls. Don't be the CEO and the business owner that says, this isn't happening to me, because those are always the ones where it's happening to you the most. But you have a choice. You can say, well, if I'm missing calls, can I go out and hire another employee? Sure, you can. But it's going to cost a lot more than if you just used us. And we tell everybody, once you're spending more with us than it would be to hire an employee, then you have a choice. Go out and hire an employee and then reduce back your cost to us, or just keep dealing with us, because you don't have to have the headaches of so many employees. We also replace the need for all of those employees. So it's a really great solution in so many different ways around those new patient missed phone calls that absolutely grow practices, small and large, 6 figures a year. It's relatively eye-opening, not relatively, very eye-opening to our doctors, to our clients, on how many calls we're actually scheduling for them. And it kind of makes them sick to their stomach thinking back. We had a guy the other day, I'll never forget it. He's just, he's been around, he's been doing this for 30 years. He signed a board and he started looking at this. We're sending him 5 one month and 10 another, and then 2. And then maybe we go a month where it's, maybe we get lucky, or he gets lucky and there's none. And then it's 12. And next thing you know, it's 50, 100 new patients easily in a year. And he's just looking at himself going, geez, this is what I've been missing every year my entire career. So it's happening. You need a solution, and a call center is not enough. It's got to be a call center on steroids, if you will. It's got to think, act, and speak as if they're sitting at your front desk, remotely access your software, and schedule that new patient. The next one is new patient no-shows. Look, we're dealing with just like when you miss a phone call, like I was talking about. There was a time where somebody taking a message and you calling them back, it still didn't represent your brand well, but it was a time where it was fine. They're not shopping around. Dental Economics, the Benson Koppel, and a couple others have a stat out that people are calling upwards of 5 practices now before they actually decide which to visit. You look at that and you realize your receptionist and the way your phones are handled is in direct competition with all of these other choices. And that's what it goes back to. If you do miss one, they're going right to the next one. Or they've already called 3 before they even called you. So if they already called 3 and they call you and you don't answer, how do you have any chance of winning? And that is what we live in. The other piece to this is the way your receptionist talks. So one of your investments in WrightChat is me training our agents to be impeccable on the phones. We use the new patient group training program. You do get access to that 8.5-hour on-demand course as a WrightChat client, because we want your receptionists to be impeccable and understand how you must talk and communicate with today's modern consumer. It's very different. If you're a practice out there that has invested in phone training in the past, And the investment was creating your phone people into data collectors, where they're just answering questions, collecting data, and hanging up and scheduling the person if they're fortunate. If you've invested in phone training that taught you how to get on and off the phone as quickly as possible, those are outdated. Your receptionist now is your ultimate marketing and sales machine. They have to understand how to place more value through edification, verbiage and presentation skills, consumer psychology, etc., on why your practice is unique and why it's different. And that leads me into no-shows. No-shows is the second way you're losing money on the new patient phone calls. That if you have a new patient no-show problem, or if you just have a new patient that no-shows even once, the no-shows are directly related to how the receptionist set that call up. The receptionist, and our goal here through our training with new patient group with that course, and then how we answer the phones when you miss them for your new patients, our goal is to have that patient write a 5-star review on Google before they show up. And it happens consistently with our clients. You ask how, and it's because the phone call and everything about it has to be unexpected. That caller has to hang up, and you have to be memorable. They have to go to themselves, wow, that was the most amazing experience, most proud receptionist. She was so happy. Her verbiage skills were impeccable. She made me feel, basically you're getting the emotional buy-in from the customer, client, patient. And if you do it right, you actually can get a 5-star review before they show up. But the point is when you do it right like that, people show up. It reduces your no-shows. So if your no-show rate is considerable, and if you're not tracking it, your eyes should be all over it. Orthodontic practices, if you have 50 no-shows in a year and you can reduce that down to 30, that is 20 more. That is 100 to 150 grand additional revenue you can add to your practice this year just by reducing your no-shows, if that's it, all right? And we call that basically the focus funnel. It's focusing on little things in your practice, pretending they're your own unique business, and making sure that business is better this year than it was last year. Reduce your no-shows. If you have a no-show problem, it is on your receptionist. They have to speak in a different way. The next one here is lack of perceived value, kind of rolling in there. There are so many mystery calls we do, and we ask questions, things like, maybe you're a GP practice, and we say things like, what does the first appointment entail? It's just a pretty common question that people will ask. If you're an ortho practice, what is do you do Invisalign, and what does that look like? All of these questions we ask, those are two of many more, of course. The receptionists respond the exact same, almost to a T, all right? And it's an epidemic in the healthcare environment. This applies to other practices as well, just using a GP one and an orthodontic one because you two are our main clientele, but we do answer for a lot. But orthodontics and GPs are by far and away our biggest clients out there, so using you guys as an example. The reality is, because people are shopping, it goes back to the way you answer these questions cannot be the same as the other 3-4 practices they've called before you, after you, or maybe you're the third one, so they've called some before and after. You have to be trained on how to say things differently and more unique to make sure that you are put above on a pedestal than the other options. That's one of the ways the WrightChat agents are uniquely trained. Those phone calls go just impeccable on how brilliant those calls are. We just props to us from our clients all the time on how great those calls go. But we also want your receptionists to be trained at a very high level, which is why we give away the very popular new patient group on-demand course as part of you being a WrightChat client, because we want you to have access to these skill sets to learn how to place more value. You've got to think, if somebody says, do you do Invisalign? What you have to understand is you're most likely a practice, and within 15, 20 miles of that person's house or business, think how many other practices are out there that do Invisalign, okay? Invisalign does not make you unique. You make you unique. The investment is in you. It's not an Invisalign. Invisalign's a tool that does not work without you as a fabulous clinician doing all the behind-the-scenes things. Well, the thing is the consumer's not thinking that way. They think their investment is in Invisalign or whatever tool you use. You have to paint an image in these people's minds that that's not the case. And through edification, sales fundamentals, verbiage and presentation skills, it is unbelievable. Your same-day starts go up. your client retention, your patient retention goes up, etc. before they even arrive. The goal is how do we get them to start going, I'm going to buy from this place, all right? And when you do that, you also lower your no-shows, okay? And that's exactly how the WrightChat agents speak. They role play every single week. We repetitively train our people. We have a culture of success, client first here. Our agents go the extra mile. We want your people to do that as well. For the calls you do answer, we want to set you up for better success. And then if it does roll over to us, we're going to answer it and knock it out of the park for you, okay? The next one is lack of consistent training. Look, that's one of the reasons why we give away our new patient group on-demand course for you, because the reality of the situation is in order to get receptionists at a level where they can really move the needle speaking to the modern day consumer in this new economy of competition, commoditization, and just overall consumerism, they've got to role play, they've got to practice. So the on-demand course is watching it, that's one thing, but you got to adapt kind of the culture we have here at WrightChat, and that is consistently training your people. Role playing and practice will absolutely ask any athlete. That's what makes an athlete better than the next athlete is consistent practice, role play, dedication to change, etc. Well, our agents are trained on all these things. We want to make sure, again, that you are, because the lack of consistency, you think about all these things, staying in control, efficiency, sales fundamentals, verbiage and presentation, understanding the consumer psychology behind the domino effect, the halo effect, reciprocity, connotation. The list goes on and on and on and on. Consensus, empathy, all of these things, all these psychological terms. It's imperative you understand what they are. You also understand how you carry those out on a given new patient phone call. Again, that's going to come with the new patient group on-demand phone training that we're going to give you. Like 8.5 hours, and you get to keep that as long as you are a WrightChat client. It's great because now you don't have to worry about consistent training. You can play that together as a group. You hire somebody new, and that's always a problem. It's another reason why, from a WrightChat standpoint, I'll talk about this here in just a minute, that people like us and stay with us is because if we lose an employee, it's on us to figure it out, right? If you lose an employee, it's on you to figure it out. So this outsourcing model not only saves you from hey, you are definitely missing calls. You're probably missing 3, 5, upwards of 10 a month, just if you're a single lower volume practice. But the reality is it also saves you from a hiring and headache standpoint, okay? Because you can outsource to us. You can always increase the amount of calls we're answering for you or reduce them depending on what tier you want to be in. Very customized approach, but you've got to consistently train your people. And that leads me into the employee turnover. So the new patient group clients, we've been around for many years as new patient group, impeccable reputation. We speak for the largest, most respected companies in the industry: Dental Monitoring, SmileSnap, OrthoFi, Invisalign, Henry Schein, Propel Orthodontics. I'm a speaker for all of those companies, and there's a reason. All right, you don't get partnered with all of those big, well-respected names unless you get the job done and you really move the needle forward in this new economy. Well, the reality of the situation is the employee turnover is a big problem in offices. Not necessarily even if you're living in times where it's hard to find somebody else. Of course, that's part of it, but it goes beyond that. You take it from a new patient group perspective. We'll look at this first. All right, a couple scenarios usually happen on the new patient group side. You train someone else's employees and they get really good. Okay, let's just take make-believe name Betty. Betty gets really good. She's a go-getter. She's really interested in learning all these new skill sets. When you make mystery calls, she knocks it out of the park. Everything's great. And then she gets pregnant. She decides not to come back. She quits. Whatever happens, she's not there anymore. So all of that investment, and it's why I started New Patient Group, because it replaces the need for the consultant model. We're a personal trainer for every aspect of your practice. We're a division of you, to where we're constantly training people when you lose them, repetitively training people that you have, because the reality is you're going to lose people. Every business has that happen. You're going to lose people. You're going to lose good ones, bad ones, etc. As a business owner to business owner, the goal is to minimize the good ones you lose and maximize the bad ones. Like you want to lose the bad ones because you want to create an environment where they're all good ones, okay? And there's certain ways to make that happen. That's part of the leadership coaching with New Patient Group. But back to this employee turnover. So the one scenario is you get them great and then they leave and you're starting all over. All right, one scenario. The other scenario is that no matter how long you train them, they're just not trainable. Either they don't want to be or they just don't have the skill set. So you're wasting money there too, right? And then you have to get rid of the person, and then you're starting all over again. It's just the reality situation. It's just dealing with being a business owner. So those are usually the scenarios. So either way, you're kind of in a lose-lose situation, which is another reason why WrightChat exists. Okay, if you have 2 receptionists today in your call volume and they're missing new patient calls, which again they are, instead of having to hire a third, what you do is you outsource the other one to us. We're going to answer 5, 10, 15 of those a month for you, okay? Which 5 to 10 fall into our tier 1 investment, and then 11 to 20 falls into tier 2, and it's every 10 is basically a new tier with a different investment for the practice for you. But that employee turnover, it lessens it. Maybe you're 2 receptionists today and you lose one. Well, now you have a choice. Do you go out through the headaches of hiring, or do you just up the tier with us? And that's what people do all the time is they up their tier. They keep one receptionist and now they don't have to hire another one. There's all these customized ways to reduce your headaches by outsourcing to us. The other one is the inability to convert shoppers into value-based buyers. This is very important. If people are shopping, they are asking questions like, how much do you charge for Invisalign? How much do you charge for braces? If you're a dental practice, how much do you charge for X? Fill in the X for all from a how many treatments you do standpoint. These questions are being asked. If you do 1,000 mystery calls, and you should do this to your own practice, by the way, and ask them this question, how much do you charge for, and then put in the blank, whatever you want to do. The reality of the situation is they're going to answer it in one of 2 ways. 100% of the time. Either the first one, they're going to quote the fee. All right. They're going to say it's, oh, how much is Invisalign? It's $6,000. Would you like to schedule? That's what they'll say, right? Which you lose in that situation unless you want to be the cheapest in town. The only way quoting the total price over the phone works is if your business model is I want to be the cheapest in town, churn and burn in high quantity. That's the only way that works. The other one is they're going to apologize. They're going to say, no, sorry, we can't really quote prices over the phone. We need to get you in here. Would you like to schedule? They're going to say that. So 1 of 2 scenarios. Now, when we hear the second scenario I just described, that means you as the leadership team at the practice told your receptionist, we don't quote prices over the phone. But you never bothered to go the next mile and train them what to actually say. So in the new patient group phone training that you're going to get, you are going to get our 3 steps to overcoming price and insurance inquiries, okay? It is a very advanced sales module in that course on how you deal with that. So you don't quote the investment, but you don't tell them that either. It is a very great way, and you'll be blown away. It's value-based edification. Part 2 is clinical confusion, and part 3 is kind of using it's the power of authority, but also scarcity that actually tries to scare the patient off, which in turn gets them to schedule. It's an unbelievable 3-step process. Our agents are trained on it. So if we miss, and this is important, if you miss a new patient call, it rolls to us, and we get those price inquiries, we're going to knock it out of the park for you. Okay. So that's the other piece with us. Your conversion is going to increase. You don't always have visibility of this as a doctor, as an office manager watching. Phone call answers, you're back in the mouth. Office manager, you're doing something in your office. Betty gets the call. They say, how much do you charge for Invisalign? How much do you charge for braces? How much do you charge for, if you're a plastic surgeon, this laser procedure? Whatever it is, you get the point. These questions are happening to your practice, to your receptionists. If they're not, or they're happening very little, you need to check your online marketing, because the better you do online marketing and the more awareness you have online, the more questions like this you will get on the phone, right? So if you're doing online marketing, you better have your phone people trained. I always say you also better use WrightChat, because you don't want to miss calls after you're investing in marketing, which is another piece of why our clients stick with us. Because that insurance policy, if you can get another 2 or 3 or 10 or whatever the number is, new patients a month you otherwise would have missed, it lowers the amount of advertising you have to do because all of your conversions are going up. Okay, so that's another piece that the clients love about WrightChat. But this inability to convert shoppers, we see it all the time. We convert people that otherwise would have left and gone somewhere else all the time through this 3-step training. Our agents are trained in it. We want your receptionists trained in it as well to be just as good as ours. Now, the inability to overcome price or insurance increase, like I just talked about. The next one is inability to convert shoppers into value-based buyers. Look, the goal should always be The goal should always be, and then we'll get to the eighth and final one here in just a minute. The goal should always be with this is how you take somebody, because again, remember I mentioned earlier, people in their mind, they think their investment's in the tool. I'm buying a crown. I'm buying Invisalign. I'm buying braces. That is what's on people's mind. Your receptionist is the ultimate sales and marketing machine in this new economy where people are, they're just dialing. It's like patients are cold calling, trying to find the place that they're most comfortable with, all right? Your goal has to be to paint an image in the mind, which is called the domino effect. It's one of the things you'll learn. The domino effect is how our brains work in images. Every word I'm speaking to you right now, your brain is flipping that to a photo. It's how our brains work. So you got to ask yourself, what kind of photos do you want to be represented by? And how you get that is through your verbiage and presentation skills to create these images. We want callers to understand and have images popping in their mind of, oh, so my investment is in the doctor, right? It's the doctor you choose matters. Invisalign's only as good as the doctor delivering it. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It's a tool, right? It's just a hammer. You got somebody that swings the hammer wrong, doesn't work. If you have somebody that swings the baseball bat wrong, it does not work, right? So you've got to have somebody convinced that their investment is not in the crown, it's in the doctor. It's not an Invisalign, it's in the doctor, etc. You get the point. But that is your receptionist job. They are your ultimate sales and marketing machine, so they must be trained on the verbiage skills. The WrightChat agents are. We train them every single week on a repetitive basis. And again, we want you to have the new patient group on-demand course that actually I'm the coach in, all right? So I coach that 8.5-hour course. We're going to teach you how to be just as good as the WrightChat people that are answering your calls on a backup basis, remotely accessing your software, and scheduling that new patient. So it's very seamless to the new patient. They have no clue that somebody else off-site actually answered that call. Last one, inevitably, all this goes into lack of patient experience. So there's something called the halo effect. The halo effect you will learn a lot about. We train our agents hard on it, and the phones have the ultimate impact as regards to that particular psychology. So the halo effect is how basically, if you like part of the whole, we as humans tend to like the whole. As an example, you go to a restaurant, you love the waiter. He or she is just hilarious. They're always there right on time. They're just great. You leave that restaurant likely going, wow, boy, the service there is great. The waiters are fantastic, even though you just had one, right? That's the halo effect. Or it also works against you or in a negative where you could buy a car. Let's just say it's a Chevy Silverado. And you buy the car, and for whatever reason, it's a lemon. Now, they make 1 million of them, and 999,999 of them are perfect. The owners love them. You're stuck with the lemon. What are you thinking? Boy, those Silverados they're crap, right? That's what you're most likely thinking, even though they're not. So part of the whole represents the whole. The phones, however that person views you on the phone, is exactly how they view your entire organization, which is why the phones have the number one impact on whether somebody buys from you today and remains a client, patient, customer with you for life, okay? The phones are that ultimate halo effect. If you come across exciteful, positive tone, unbelievably trained on verbiage, understand the power of authority, you're just the best a caller has ever talked to, forget healthcare, with any business they've ever called. It is unbelievable what it can do in this new economy with people shopping for your conversion, in your overall starts, and reducing your no-shows. All of this goes into delivering an exceptional, unforgettable patient experience. Harris Interactive does a study. They do it routinely. Their latest one is 90% of people will choose and to remain with a business. This is in healthcare and out because of the quality of the experience over whether or not the place is any good at what they do. Now, you think about that, and it's pretty scary, but it's also the reality of the situation. Okay, it's what we're dealing with. Your experience trumps all. It is what it is. The more people that understand and adapt to that in this new economy, the more you will crush your competition, because most won't, all right? It's a mindset shift. It's a mindset shift in that you're a 5-star hotel, you're a resort that happens to sell healthcare stuff. You're not a healthcare stuff that's trying to offer a good experience. If you make that mindset shift, you will dominate. You will lower your costs. And all this goes into patient experience. If you miss a call and there's no one there to get it, or it's just a call center that takes a message, that's a bad patient experience. If the phone's ringing and you have to get it, and Mrs. Jones, the patient standing in front of you, wants to check out and she has to wait while you're on the phone, that's a bad patient experience. All of this goes into a improved patient experience. It's what WrightChat is here for. We look forward to working with your practice. Contact us today, and we look forward to talking with you and making a huge difference for your practice and your business. Have a great day. Bye-bye.